to everyone, and thanks to be here. And today we are going to talk about learning to learn. But before start, let's see what I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about machine learning, so this topic is not about machine learning. It's not about how your brain works. I have difficulty understanding mine, so it will be difficult explaining yours. And I'm not going to tell you how to read 50 books a year. So what I'm going to talk about learning. Learning as the process of getting knowledge or a new skill. Okay, so who am I now? I'm Carlo Corti, I'm a software engineer at lastminute.com. I'm a co-organizer of the Teaching of Software Craftsmanship Meetup and a continuous learner. So the first question now is why a software engineer is here today to talk about learning? Because for me, the answer is simple, because learning is part of our life. From when we are born to when we die, we are continuous learning from our life, but for our job, for our industry, learning is fundamental for our job. In fact, we learn in many different ways, from reading a book, to going to conference, to reading a blog post, to writing a blog post, to reading someone else's code, to working. Working for us is learning every day. But the problem here is not how we directly learn, so reading or writing code on someone else. But do we really control our learning events? We are in charge of our learning events. For me, the answer is quite simple. It's no, or not always, because if I look back to my working history, I came out from my studies and then I started working, and I was learning some Java because we are doing some Java. Then I switch project, I'm learning another language like Kotlin because we switched to Kotlin. I changed company and we are doing Agile, so I learned some of Agile and maybe some of DevOps. So I'm not learning because I choose to learn Java, Kotlin, DevOps, or Agile because it happened. I was there, and this was what was required for the job at certain times. And this also happened in my daily job. I was learning because I had difficulties completing a task. There was some problem, so Stack Overflow was my answer. So I read the answer. Okay, I learned this little thing about Java that could solve my problem. And this was what I was doing in the past. This is a definition, and is accidental learner. So I don't learn because I choose to learn. I learn because it happened. I was there when the situation that forced me to learn was not in charge of me. Is it a problem? For someone else, for someone yes, for someone else no. For me, it was a problem because what I realized is that my knowledge was fragmented. So choosing Java, I know some bit of concurrency, some bit of that, some bit of the frameworks. I didn't have a broad knowledge that allowed me to be in control of what I was saying and what I was doing with my job. And the other problem was the low retention of the learned knowledge. So the issue was, okay, I was talking to someone and I was trying to answer, and okay, I remember that I read, but I don't remember what I read. So this was the problem. And if we, on one side, we have the accidental learner, on the opposite side, we have what is called deliberate learner. A deliberate learner is a person that is conscious about learning, is aware what he's learning and his knowledge, but most of all he's curious about things, so he doesn't accept them because it's true in that way, but he goes deep and understands how it works from the fundamental, and there's a plan and direction where he wants to be in the future. So he has a direction of his learning path. So he's planning about how he manages his learning. And this is what I'm trying to be. I'm not 100% a deliberate learner because sometimes I'm an accidental learner because it happens. And being a deliberate learner gave me a discovery that learning is a skill. Nowadays, for how the information change in our industry and as a software development, there is a new framework every day, a new library, a new technology, a new language, everything is popping around us. So we are surrounded by new things that we can't keep up if we focus on everything. So I decided to focus on one thing, that is learning. It became a skill. And for this reason, I took a step back and decided, okay, how I'm learning, how I can improve learning. And for me, the most basic things about learning are books. So I was learning through books. I was reading a lot of books, but I was not getting enough knowledge. I was not keeping enough knowledge of what I was reading, so the return of investment of my time spent about reading was not good. So I tried to change the books, change the writers, trying to find the best book for that topic, but that was not the solution. The solution was changing my focus from the topic to the process, because it's not what I was reading the problem, but how I was reading the different books. I tried different strategies because like 4 years ago, I discovered that my learning was not good enough, and I decided to change how I was learning because I always get taught to study a topic and not to improve my study about that topic. I tried different technique. I found one that for me it's fundamental. I cannot live without it, and I will go explain now. And it's mainly based on 5 phases. The first one is survey. What is survey? When I was reading a book, I was a passive person. I was reading from the first page to the last page, and I was not engaging my brain about what I was what I was reading, and if what I was reading was good enough for me. So the first phase, that is survey, it's simple. You just read the introduction, table of contents, and the introduction paragraph of each chapter, and you somehow understand the topics with for that book. So it's an introduction level, a deep dive book, it's related to just one topic. So you start to understand if that book is the correct one, and which information you can extract from that book. The second phase, that is the most interesting one, it's the question. Now that you understand what you are going to read about, you, like in TDD, you start with the test. The test for you is the question that you want that the book will answer. Not necessarily the book will answer that question, but the question are the information that you are trying to extract from that book. So you are using the book as a starting point for your knowledge, for acquiring your knowledge. Once you have the question and you have completed your survey, you start the reading part. But will you read all the pages in the books? No, because you know how the information is distributed in the book, because you did the survey. And you have the question. If the question are answered in the first 2 chapters, you read the first 2 chapters, and the book is off. You got your answer, and that is done. So you lowered the time spent reading and learning to just one part of the book. And while reading, you can come up with new answer. Are they going to be answered in the book? Question. Are they going to be answered in the book? Maybe yes, maybe not. But the problem here is not that you have to read the whole book. You have to read what is needed to answer those questions. After this, or in the same time, it depends of how you prefer, there is the recite part. You take notes. Notes is an important part of this technique. You have to take notes with your own words. You have not to do copy and paste, even if you are reading online. You have to summarize the key points, and maybe organize them in schemas, mind maps, or which format you prefer. You are engaging again a second or third time the information. The last part is review. So you are expanding notes, exploring in deep those notes, maybe reread some portion of the book because you didn't understand something, you missed out some key points. These are the 5 phases, and this technique is called SQ3R. It's a well-known technique in the United States, and I discovered only when I was 30 years old. And is it worth? For me, yes, because if I spent 10 hours reading a book, and with this technique I have an overhead of 1-2 hours, but the information that I extract and maintain over the time is much higher, for me it's a well-invested time. But as I said before, I'm not here to talk about how to read 50 books a year. I am here to say that it's not a good metric to track how many books you read in a year, because it's not important. What is important and what matters is what you get out of them. So the amount of knowledge that you can bring and acquire after you read the book. Okay. At this point of time, I was improving my practices, and a problem came up. And this problem is simple. I don't have time. I don't have time to read, I don't have time to learning, my job doesn't allow me to spend hours about reading or learning something because I have to produce code. But this was an illusion, because as Carl Newport says in his book, we spend much of our day on autopilot, that we are not giving much thought to what we are doing with our time. So the question was simple, what I was doing with my time. And I use maths, so these are simple numbers. We have 160 hours a week. If I work 8 hours a day and I sleep 8 hours a night, I'm left with 72 hours a week. Fantastic. I can invest 72 hours in learning. This is not possible because we have other things to do in the week. So what I did is, okay, now I have 72 hours to organize. How to organize them, how to extract them from them the maximum time that I can use for learning. I applied a technique that is called fixed schedule productivity. What you do is fix a limit of hours of study learning and all the other activities if you are doing sport, doing hobbies, and that is your goal of the week. You have to achieve that. Then you go backward from Sunday to Monday, and you simply plan them, trying to balance the not related stuff, not important stuff like commuting to work, chatting with friends, surfing the web, doing not important things if you want to invest your time in learning, and what you want to achieve as a learner. And you have to track. You have to track your time, and you have to see if you are doing what you planned. I did this, and after a couple of months, I've discovered that somehow I have 10 hours a week. If everything is okay, if there are no issues during my week. So I went from having no time to having 10 hours. The technique was really simple. I didn't believe it at the start, but now I can find 10 hours a week to study, to learn and to improve myself, and I'm more effective because I changed how I do learning. And then the last question that was, okay, now that I'm better, what I can do, but what I have to study. And this is the last part, that is part of being a deliberate learner, that is to have a goal. So plan your study, plan your learning, make a couple of goals a year, 3, 4, I do it in a quarter. So I have 3 main goals in the year. This year I had the first quarter was a deep dive on object-oriented programming. The second was on personal skills and refining my day-by-day knowledge. And the third was about ease, because I am approaching now, it's about functional programming. These goals, but are high level. What I suggest is to break them into smart objectives. What is a smart objective? Is a specific objective about a specific area, so your goal. It's measurable, so you know how to keep track. It's achievable, so you are not planning to go on the moon, but to study maybe what is a monad. And it's relevant to your job and to your career, and it's time limited. It doesn't require me a year, but maybe 1 week. And use the feedback to improve about time management, plan management, and your work. About study. What I use is checking how I complete my goals, how the week went, and how I keep my knowledge updated. This is what I did in the last years, and this is the outcome. I went from reading a book a year. Now I'm at 14 in 2019, and I'm finished the 15th. But now you are thinking, why he shows the number of books? But he said that the number of books is not a good metric to track, but this chart is not important, this one is important. The books that I read are information. More information important to me, related to my learning, related to my personal career as software developer. And it's amazing, for my point of view. Long story short, be a deliberate learner. Don't let anyone else own your learning. Learn by yourself, decide yourself what you're going to do, even if it costs you changing a job. Make a plan. It's different of what I did, but I think this is a better way to approach it. Make a plan about what you're going to learn. Improve your time management, because it's just to be aware what you are doing. Improve your practice, but doesn't mean to change. Understand if how you are learning is effective for the time you are dedicating to learning, and use the feedback, because we like to have early feedback to improve ourselves. Where to start? If you want to deep dive on the subject, I suggest 3 books: Pragmatic Thinking and Learning, Deep Work, and The Power of Habits, that can allow you to to understand better about learning, about how to keep your focus, and how to build habits. And before leaving, I want to give you this quote, that is, not sharing an opportunity to learn is a cardinal sin. And thank you. If you have any question, if you have any different things about learning, just ask me. Sure.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing your experience. And I have a question. That is, did you have the opportunity to try applying what you explained so far in a completely blank field, in a field where you didn't have any experience at all? Let's say a new language, or maybe studying, I don't know if you have a background on art or whatever.
It's not a plan of this year, but it's a plan for next year, for learning a new language that is not a new programming language. And I don't know. I'm just doing the plan. I didn't have the opportunity to starting, but just doing the plan, it's about tricky, because you have to try to understand how to split them in smart objectives. But books come in help, because you have chapters.
Yeah. The question was when you don't know anything about a topic, you don't even know where to start.
Okay, you have to do preliminary research. I have done it to learn Haskell, because I don't know anything about functional programming language. So I spent a lot of time to understand where to start, what to read, where to look. I search in the web, there are a lot of information, and try to understand what is more helpful for me. And it's not easy. It took me a lot of time. Now I have a plan. It's a plan about, I think, a year to read a 1,200 pages book. So, and to master that language, and there are also 2 books after. So it's not easy. It requires time, but at least you don't leave it to accident. You know that you are going to learn step by step the things. So you will do it because you planned it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No more question? Okay. Okay, we can go to lunch. Thank you.